All right, guys. Today we're going to do a player profile with Sorceryy. He's taking the Titans this year. And Sorceryy, what do you think about your team this year? Do you like the team? Are you wanting to make some big changes? How are you feeling about him?
Making a lot of changes, but I do like the team. I like a small handful of players on the team,
Yeah, we
and
got
those are the small handful that are going to actually make it around to the start of the season. And a couple other users liked a small handful of my players as well, and I traded them for some other players.
so you're talking about trades. Do you got any rumors you want to let out there right now, or maybe wet the whistle for the league a little bit?
Well, I will have an X Factor running back this season, but it's not the one that I started with. That is on the Titans. And
Okay.
I, in classic sorcery fashion, have built a ridiculous defensive line that's probably not going to end up having a large impact on the game. But I've traded, I believe at the moment, my only draft picks in the next 2 years are like a couple future fours. Just traded away actually, as of like 30 minutes ago, my entire current draft class has gone to Seafield. So I don't know how I feel about that because they're all going to end up being 99s. But yeah, a lot of moves have been made for kind of old players. So this is a short term window. This is year one. I'm just going
And
from
now,
the start. Yeah,
it,
it's everybody. I'm counter. I'm trying to counter everybody else. People like Seafield and all the other good users for whatever they seem to trade away all their old players and go a million picks and go free agents at every position so they can sign them to cheap contracts and build for like year 3 or 4. Last year we didn't even get past year 2.5, and even if we did, Jake broke the salary cap, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways. So I'm just, hey, year one, I'm living for today, living for year one. Traded it all away. I got a good team. Week one, year two, they'll probably all regress into nothing. But that's what I'm going for.
Hey, that's an interesting strategy because you see like a lot of like I've been in a lot of trade talks with people who are like, "Oh, I can't give away my youth or whatever," but it's like these first couple seasons, I know my game plan is always to have the team I want on the field season 3. We may not get to season 3 if something happens like it did last Madden.
Yeah.
So, I think there's that big window in season 1 and even potentially season 2 where people can really compete for it, and it's a new Madden. People aren't used to it. The people like Joe Seafield and I aren't to the point where we can just see a play and be like, okay, I'm going to throw a one play touchdown against it. So it's a really good time to go for it. And I think a lot of people are afraid of it because they say, where does it put me in the future? But I think that's a good strategy to go for it when you get a chance because there's I was looking at the stats the other day. There's just very few people in the league who've won a Super Bowl. It's it's kind of
Yeah.
like a group and it's all bunched up there. So if you have your chance to get one, it's definitely a good thing to do. And then you were talking about kind of the trades you were making. It sounds like you may not have the powerhouse running back, which is not surprising. I would think you're going to be someone who wants a running back who goes around people more than through them. Um, are there any players that you have this year that you're really excited for, or if it's trade related, you don't have to mention those players yet. But is there any players you want to spotlight that could be a big part of your team this year?
Malik Willis. Whole team. I mean, hopefully you can see it in my profile picture here. I don't know if it's updated, but the team's gonna live and die by Malik Willis. I remember I had Tyree Jackson in Madden 21, 22 when I was the Lions, and you know this well because he missed a 2 yard pass in the red zone and he threw it straight to a Raven or whatever team you were, and we lost the game. If it ends up being like Madden 22, where if you have throw accuracy in the 70s or something like that, you can't complete a pass at all. You might as well be like an out of position wildcat. It's gonna be a
Mhm.
rough year one, especially after all the moves we made to win now. But there's a lot of talk of Madden 24 being a big scrambling year.
Yep.
So hopefully Malik Willis is going to be an asset offensively, and I'll be able to use a star upgrade from the tourney. Hopefully I'll be able to actually get that and throw it on Malik Willis and turn him into a positive for the team, as opposed to what could end up being a big negative. And about the Super Bowl thing that you were mentioning, now that you mention it, the later in the season is when you see, people like you and Seafield winning more Super Bowls. Year one is most of the upset dark horse Super Bowl candidates.
Yep.
People like Nas, or I feel like Eric won one year, or Berg or something like that. I don't know. But you'll see a lot of the more 10 to 15 tierish users, when they do occasionally win a Super Bowl and it's not one of the top 5 like it always is, tends to be either at the end of the cycle when everybody stops caring, or year one, because it seems like everybody who builds Dynasty, all these top 5 users, they play the long game.
Yep.
So
Yep,
that's kind of the window for a guy like me who's a middling user, at least statistically.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you see, one thing I've seen, I feel like a lot now, is I feel like Joe typically really capitalizes in year 2, because I think when you look at Seafield and I, we do a lot of draft picks, and I may do a little more draft picks than him. He still retains some of the talent, but Joe is really good at kind of getting young talent, or at least talent that's kind of reaching that 70, 80 overall. So by season 2, Joe gets to where he's very competitive just with the style that he builds his team, probably before, Seafield or I get to that point. So like you said, season 1's a really good time to go for it. You do see a little more surprising, and it's a new game. No one's used to it at that point either. So I would definitely agree on that. And you mentioned Malik Willis. So I have a couple things to say with that. One, I had him in another franchise last year, and I hope they fix this glitch. But every time he was under center and shotgun, his head would distort side to side to the side that you're running the ball.
Oh, well, don't. Hey, cut this out of don't put that in the video. Keep that out of as long as nobody knows, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. But then the second thing I'm going to ask, do you use the new passing mechanics? Because you can get those perfect accuracy passes when you use that. And I think that would be a big thing for a lower overall quarterback.
I don't use, well, I didn't last year. I didn't use the accuracy one. I just used the placement one. And you're talking about the accuracy one, right? Where you can get it perfect. Yeah, I just used the placement one because I just couldn't get initially, the growing pains were too much of getting the timing down for bullet passes and stuff, because I'm used to just, if it's a streak or over the top defense, you just tap it. If it's anything else, you mash it and you just hold it the whole time. So I could try that if I didn't have that option when Tyree Jackson was so bad, so I could test that out in practice mode and see if I can get used to it. If Malik Willis ends up being that bad, that could be a good route to go.
Are you in the NSL tournament?
I'm not aware of an NSL tournament, so I'm assuming that means that I'm not.
Okay. I was just wondering, because then that would be some more games you could try stuff out on. Cool. Well, I guess so. You said season 1's probably your window. Where do you see yourself going throughout the cycle, throughout the years?
Well, there's always year 3, like you mentioned, was always my big year, mainly because as soon as I get the game, I just kind of cut every contract, because 90% of real life football players suck in Madden because they're too slow. So and they got 20 mil a year when they're awful Madden players. So you cut them all, and the way Madden works is they stack all your dead cap up on year 2, and then year 3 it all goes off. So you end up 100 million in cap space in year 3. So that'll hopefully be, in this hypothetical world where year 1 actually was my window and I'm a good team, year 3 will be my re-up. I'll reload, hopefully get some free agents at that point in time. And Malik Willis should progress. He's 24, but with the dev trait, and he's such a low overall because he's got 42 awareness.
Yep.
That it still doesn't take very much XP to upgrade him, despite his age. So there should be that. The running back that I did trade for, I'll just say, it's Saquon Barkley. He should also be able to progress a decent amount, 93 overall or so, and he's still only like 26 X factor. Should be able to get him up to a 99. So that should be the team, and then just kind of ride it out until the two defensive players that I traded for, not to be named, retire. That's my window.
Yeah, I think Barkley is going to be a good piece for you because I can remember playing you last year where you had non-ability Barkley, and I think like the most frustrating game in the world I played, I was like, I don't know, like 30, 40 seconds left in the game, and you did like a couple draws with Barkley when I was in prevent, and you ended up busting one for like a long touchdown.
Yeah, I do remember that now that you mention it. I didn't remember who it was against, but I do remember. Wasn't it like fourth down? Was that the game against?
It was like 4th and like 30 or something.
Yeah. You came out in like quarters, or like prevent deep, like you had a 3-man front and everybody was cushioned.
Yep.
And I just looked at it. I was like, I'm not confident at all in my passing game, and I'm really confident in Saquon Barkley. And I know this is the stupidest thing I could do right now, but I'm going to hit X and Y. And I did it, and it worked out. I worked out twice. I do remember that now because I think the first time it was such a stupid call. It might have been like 3rd down the first time, but it was such a stupid call, and then it worked. I thought, there's no way he thinks I'm going to do it again. And it worked again.
Yeah. So yeah, now that he actually has abilities, I think he's going to be a really nice weapon for you.
Yeah, he was really good in Madden 20 when I had him, but that was back during he had evasive, and that was back when jukebox and spin cycle were really good because if you just flick the stick, you get like the warp him into a missed tackle every time.
I remember that. You could do like a spin move back then and juke like 2 or 3 defenders at once.
Yeah. They just speed boost you. Whatever move you did, you just kind of like they just played it. When they designed the ability, they just said, let's just play the animation at 2 times speed. That was what their game development design was, and then it was very effective. Spin move and just kind of teleport across the field sideways.
Yeah, they do some dumb stuff like that. Like last year, I ended up learning that like with Derrick Henry, every time you truck, if it's like a 240-pound like halfback, basically, if you truck with a 245-pound halfback, they get a speed boost. It doesn't happen if they're like under that threshold. It's
I know the air trucking thing, big thing with Derrick Henry.
But all right, so kind of the last question to wrap up here. Who's the biggest threat you see on your way to a Super Bowl?
I gotta say Joe. Joe's gonna be my biggest threat. If you look at my division, I'm sorry to say it, but the other 2 members of my division, at least relative to Joe, pretty cupcake. If I can get past Joe, then I'd like to think I'm a contender, because I feel like that's the bar right there. If you can get past Joe, you're already an elite user. So that's the biggest hump right there. Once I get over that, it's just I need to improve on my playoff record. I don't know if it's just random chance, or if I'm overthinking it, or if maybe just everybody starts trying in the playoffs and I get exposed. But I'm 2-9 in the playoffs. One of my 2 wins was against Echo when he was the Cardinals and I was the Lions, and he had awful internet, like 500 milliseconds latency. He was throwing picks everything. So it was a fake win. I really 1-9. And I still almost lost that game. I had like a 30-point lead, and then I almost blew it. So basically, I haven't won any playoff games except the one against Kalamazoo, where I threw a 50-yard pass with Matt Gay.
Yeah.
So that's
I would agree.
That's my pain point that I got to get over, It's just I gotta be more consistent in the play. I gotta win some playoff games. If I can even just get into late playoff runs, I feel like that'll help my confidence a lot to start being more consistent in the earlier rounds.
Yeah. And yeah, I would agree with Joe being that threat, because let's say you get by Joe one time. When Joe sees something, he's gonna, learn and adjust to that. So it's gonna kind of be an ongoing battle of keep doing the same thing, because he's gonna be ready for it in the future. So I think your other division mates may not adjust as frequently as him. So I think it'll be a good battle. I think overall your division will be good. You got you, Joe, Cody. Who else?
Wisco is Texans.
Let's go. Yeah, Joe was telling me he won like a couple Super Bowls in another league, so maybe he's on the rise too. But I checked out. I wasn't in the Legends League last year. I didn't kind of see how people progressed after that, but it should be a good division.
Londotron keeps messaging me. I keep trying to tell him there's nobody on the Bears that I'm interested in on my team. This is like the third time today he's messaged me, and it's not even about any specific player. He just wants to trade with me. Not any player he wants to trade or nobody he wants from me. Just wants to trade with me. There's nobody on the Bears I'm interested in. So if any of you knows how to contact Londotron in a way that like communicate with him in a way he can understand, I'd like you to give that message to him. I do not want to trade with the Chicago Bears at this moment. Not interested. I already got a quarterback. Only buddy I would want would be Fields. Don't need him. So I'm good on that.
All right. Well, I think that's a good time to wrap this up. So thanks for your time and good luck this season.
Thank you.